I was 50 when I suddenly realized many elderly folks end up lonely and miserable because of their own doing. It hit me all at once when I turned 50. A quiet revelation, like a soft knock on the soul. Many people don't suffer through a hard and lonely old age because of fate, bad luck, or even ungrateful children, but because of the way they chose to live their earlier years. Let's be honest, we're all going to grow old. No one escapes that. Aging is part of the human condition, a universal path we all must walk. And while youth often gives us the illusion of control, vigor, and independence, those powers fade, little by little. As the years pass, life in our later years becomes less about what we can do on our own and more about how we are supported, or not, by the people around us. As we reach the later chapters of life, especially when our bodies begin to betray us, when stairs feel like mountains and putting on socks becomes an act of gymnastics, life becomes difficult in ways younger folks can't yet imagine. When we can no longer care for ourselves, dignity, comfort, and companionship become more precious than gold. When we're young, we pride ourselves on our independence. We earn our own money, cook our own meals, manage our own schedules. But as the body weakens and the mind sometimes slows, dependence becomes an unavoidable part of life. The big question is, when that day comes, will we have people around us who are willing to help? That's why people often say that age 50 is a turning point. Because up to that point, our strength, stamina, and income potential are still climbing. After 50, the curve starts to dip, slowly at first, then more steeply. We may still feel sharp, but our bodies whisper otherwise. And our ability to earn a living? Often it fades. Many rely solely on Social Security or a modest pension. Income dries up. Savings dwindle. What we once took for granted vanishes. The spotlight dims, and in its place, routine and resignation step in. But some older adults live with grace, with peace, with clarity. They are the ones who let go of grudges. They stop picking fights over nothing. They forgive. They smile more. They don't make others feel bad just to make themselves feel important. And that grace, that peace, earns them the love and care of those around them. But others, oh, how some turn sour with age. They grow bitter, demanding, controlling, and it pushes people away. Take my cousin George, a textbook case. In his younger days, George was the definition of domineering. If his wife or kids did something he didn't like, even something small, he'd blow up. Yelling, throwing things, even getting physical. His word was law. He wasn't a bad provider, no, but his household ran on fear, not love. His wife Eleanor stayed because women of her generation often did. His kids, Susan and Mike, grew up in the shadow of his temper. Time passed. Eleanor passed away. The kids grew up, moved out, built lives of their own. George, once tall and commanding, now shuffles with effort. He's in his 70s, huffing after walking from the mailbox to the front door. Mike, his son, despite years of emotional scars, took pity on the old man and brought him home. Mike and his wife Carol work long hours at a local grocery and diner, respectively. They don't have much saved, but they do their best. At first, George was manageable. They prepared enough dinner each night, so he could have leftovers for breakfast and lunch the next day. But soon George started to complain. He didn't like reheating food. Said it made him feel like a dog licking someone else's plate. He demanded Carol quit her job and stay home to care for him full-time. Mike tried to reason. If Carol stops working, Dad, we can't pay the bills. Unless you contribute your Social Security check. George refused. That money's mine, he barked. I'm saving it for when I get really sick. Tensions rose. George continued to criticize Carol's cooking, complained about being ignored, told the neighbors his son and daughter-in-law were neglecting him. The final straw? During a family dinner, with guests present, George launched into a rant, publicly humiliating his son and daughter-in-law, saying they treated him worse than a stray dog. The next morning, Mike packed George's things. You think someone else can treat you better? Go ahead. Find them. So George did what any stubborn, prideful old man might do. He walked out and went to Susan's. Susan welcomed him with compassion and set up the guest room. For a week or two, things were fine.
But soon the same cycle began.
George wanted Susan to stop working, said he shouldn't be left alone all day, complained about the food, about the quiet, about the light, about the thermostat. Susan's husband, a mechanic, tried to keep peace, but when George began picking at the kids, that was it. Susan and Mike joined forces and moved George into a modest senior living facility, $1,500 a month. No frills, bare-bones meals, one caregiver for 8 residents. No air conditioning in summer, limited heating in winter. When I visited him there, George clung to my arm. "It's miserable here," he said. "They treat me like furniture." All I could do was listen. I couldn't afford to move him somewhere better. I brought cookies, played cards, gave him company. That was all I had to offer. But deep down, I knew, and I think he did too, this wasn't about money or bad luck. This was about the choices he made, the way he treated people, the words he used when he had power, the love he never learned to give. And I've seen it more than once. When old people demand attention, yet refuse to offer respect. When they bark orders, but show no gratitude. When they become emotional tyrants instead of aging gracefully, they chase people away. And when the time comes that they can no longer live alone, they find themselves alone. So how do we avoid this? Here's what I've learned, especially for those of us who are retired or near retirement. Your happiness in old age depends largely on how you treat these 4 types of people in your life. 1, your spouse or longtime partner. Whether you're 65, 75, or beyond, the person beside you, if you're lucky to still have them, is your greatest ally. Love in old age is not passion. It is presence. It's a shared blanket on a cold morning, a bowl of soup when you're feeling sick, a familiar voice when the world seems loud. Ask old Mr. Thompson down the street. He lost his wife at 79. Said he used to criticize her for every little thing. The way she folded towels. The way she laughed too loudly at sitcoms. He thought he was helping. But after she died, he realized he'd spent years pushing her away. Now, when he wakes up thirsty at 3 a.m., he stares at the empty side of the bed and whispers, "Sarah, can you bring me some water?" But no one answers. Don't wait to appreciate your spouse. Be gentle. Say thank you.
Say sorry.
Learn to shut up when it's not worth the argument. The warmest comfort in old age is not the heating bill. It's the person beside you. 2, your children. They are your blood, your legacy, your living connection to the future. They have their own lives, families, and struggles, yes. But when you call, they answer. When you fall, they rush. That bond is gold. Take Mrs. Jenkins, retired teacher, widow, living alone. Her daughter lives in Boston, hours away, but they video chat daily. There are cameras in the home, grocery apps on standby. And when Mrs. Jenkins caught the flu, her daughter sent a nurse via delivery service to get her to urgent care, all without leaving her office. Don't complain about what your kids don't do. Celebrate what they can do. Be the kind of parent they want to call. That love, when mutual, will carry you through. 3, your old friends. Real friends are like vintage wine. Rare, rich, and comforting. Jim and Larry played baseball together as boys. 40 years later, Jim's son needed a down payment for a house. Larry, no questions asked, wired over $20,000. No contracts. Just trust. Later, when Larry's wife got cancer, Jim showed up, groceries, rides, a shoulder to cry on. These friendships aren't made in bingo halls. They're built over decades. Treasure them.
Call them.
Forgive old fights. These are your chosen brothers and sisters. 4, and finally, yourself. Yes, you. Don't forget yourself in this journey. Aging doesn't mean becoming invisible. It means finally becoming yourself. If your body hurts, rest. If your spirit needs care, take it. You don't need to please everyone. You're not a retirement center mascot. You're a human being with dignity. Carol from my local church used to say yes to everyone, every bake sale, every sick neighbor, every church function. She collapsed from exhaustion. After recovering, she learned to say no. She learned to nap, to drink tea, To sit quietly and let the world spin without her. That isn't selfish. That's wise. When you feel good, when your heart is light, you bring joy to others. When you're bitter and broken, you spread poison. So nurture your body. Forgive your regrets. Laugh more. Eat what you love. Hug who you love. Let's wrap up here. Old age can be rich, meaningful, and full of light, or it can be lonely and bitter. And while not all things are in our control, so much of it is. So be kind. Be thoughtful. Don't let pride ruin your final chapter. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Let's walk this path together, day by day, with stories, insights, and shared wisdom. Let's grow old gently, with love and laughter. Until next time, don't forget to smile. Smiling face with smiling eyes.